Look, don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger. Now, what if I told you most people aren't heartbroken because love failed, but they're heartbroken because they never defined love correctly? And I say that because in today's society, we call chemistry love. We call having a feeling of intensity love. We even call emotional attachment love. But if you take a look at 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 through 7, God gives us a definition that has nothing to do with butterflies and everything to do with character. Now, this passage here isn't for weddings, it's for maturity. And it's not about emotions, it's all about evidence. So let's take a little time out of our 24 hours to walk through it the right way. Now, as always, to understand scripture, you must understand context. And the Apostle Paul, he wasn't writing to a couple in counseling. No. Who he was writing to was a prideful, divided, competitive church in Corinth. And I say that because if you look at chapter 12, they're arguing about spiritual gifts. And if you look at chapter 14, they're arguing about order and worship. So right in the middle, in chapter 13, Paul says, you can have gifts, you can have talents, you can even have charisma. But if you don't have love, you don't have nothing. You see, this is not romance. This is spiritual maturity. And this directly applies to dating, marriage, friends, and family. So it begins where it says, love is patience. Now, when it says love is patience, this means I am not going to punish you for you not being perfect. Now, patience and love means you're giving the other person room to grow without frustration or punishment. It's understanding that change and maturity takes time. Now, let me give you an example for a relationship. If your partner is struggling with communication or past trauma, patient looks like you listening and supporting them instead of criticizing them because they're not perfect. Now, let me be clear. Patience is not tolerating disrespect or abuse. It's having grace towards someone during their growth process. It's not permission for dysfunction. Meaning, healthy love says, I see who you are becoming, not just where you are. All right, then it says, love is kind. Now, kindness is love in action. And I say that because you can be honest to someone without being harsh, and you can correct without humiliating. Kindness is honest, but it's gentle, it's constructive, and it's considerate. For example, instead of saying, you always mess this up, kind love would say, I know that didn't go well, but let's figure this out together. You see, kindness creates safety and intimacy, but rudeness and harshness, that's going to destroy it. So if your tone is constantly wounding the person you say you love, that's not strength, that's immaturity. All right, then it says, love is not jealous, boastful, or proud. Now, jealousy in relationships often come from insecurity. You see, when you're being boastful and full of pride, what you're trying to do is elevate oneself over the other person. But in reality, real love seeks the well-being of the other person rather than any type of personal gain or status. For example, celebrating your partner's success instead of feeling threatened, or solving problems together instead of insisting I'm always right. So stay humble and always remember true love values partnership, not your personal ego, because you cannot build intimacy with ego in the room. All right, then it says love is not rude or selfish. So the scripture is saying love does not demand its own way. Now, this is deep because this addresses selfishness, and love involves compromise and mutual respect, meaning it doesn't manipulate or coerce the other person. For example, instead of saying, we're going to do what I want because I said so, love is going to ask, what will work best for the both of us? I'm trying to tell you that pride is a killer, but look, healthy relationships is built off collaboration, not off control. All right, we've been scratching the surface. Now let's get a little deeper. It says, love is not irritable and it keeps no record of wrongs. Now, this one is heavy. Now, when it says love is not irritable, it is saying it exercises emotional self control, meaning it pauses before reacting or avoids overreacting to small frustrations. For example, choosing calmly to discuss over a disagreement instead of shouting over something minor that's a mistake. You see, emotional discipline not only protects the relationship, it promotes understanding. And then Paul goes on to say, love keeps no record of being wrong. This means no saving receipts for future arguments. You can't say, I forgive you, and then bring it up every time you get angry. Once you forgive, it must be released. Because it's not a cliche. In life, you cannot move forward by constantly looking backwards. All right, then it says, love rejoices in truth. Now, this means love does not celebrate wrongdoing. Meaning, real love doesn't support your partner's self destruction, it doesn't clap for sin, and it doesn't normalize dysfunction. Because if I love you, I want you whole. I don't want you comfortable in chaos, if that makes sense. Look, truth may be uncomfortable, but guess what? It builds trust. And trust is the backbone of any healthy relationship. For example, confronting a destructive habit or an unhealthy behavior instead of ignoring it for peace. All right, then it says love never gives up. Now, we have to have a clear understanding. This is not saying stay in any abusive situation. It means love will fight for a resolution. You see, a healthy couple will say, it's us against the problem, not me versus you. Love is optimistic, not pessimistic. Love truly believes growth is possible, and love will endure many seasons. And because every relationship has seasons, whether it be stress, financial pressures, miscommunication, or even fatigue, real love stays consistent even when the feelings fluctuate. So before you evaluate your partner, evaluate yourself. Ask yourself, am I patient? Am I kind? Do I keep score? Do I always need control? Or do I always react emotionally? Because the goal is not just to find someone loving, it's to also become someone loving. And guess what? When two mature people meet, love just doesn't feel good. It grows strong. So let me close this message out by saying feelings start the relationship, but your character is what's going to sustain it. And according to 1 Corinthians 13, love is not something you fall into, it's something you build. As always, I hope this message helped at least one person. I will be back at you again tomorrow with another one. Until then, I need you to keep your head on the swivel, love yourself, and only help who wants to be helped. I love y'all. I'm out!